Okay, so I'm back here with Brad Coons from Top Shelf Mushrooms. Right now I'm working on a book on mushroom startup, and part of that book I want to interview experts in the industry and kind of figure out how they got started, how they got interested in this business, and I really want to get perspective on kind of what the challenges other growers have gone through, because I know I've gone through so much to kind of get to where I am here today. And I'm really interested to kind of hear different stories and kind of figure out if there's any kind of correlation between the experiences that I've gone through and yourself. So, Brad, I'm really curious to hear about why you got into mushroom cultivation, your background, kind of what you've gone through. Have you done everything on your own? Have you made business partnerships, and exactly why have you ended up here in Meaford now? Like, what are the reasons to kind of get you here today, and why do you think all those challenges that you've gone through have been beneficial to having your own farm here in Meaford? So maybe you could kind of get into details about just kind of how you got started.
Sure. Well, I got started by visiting a friend who was doing some log cultivation, and I just found it really curious that he was drilling all these holes in logs, and I just said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm making mushrooms," and I didn't know that's how they grow and that's how you make them. And so I got fascinated by that. We did it. We got a lot of shiitake. It was great. And I did it again, and it didn't work at all. And I was, as an engineer, you look at repeatable processes, input, output. Process in the middle is the process is the same. Why does the output fail one time and work fantastic the other time? So I really just sank my teeth into it to try to learn as much as I could. And that was about 13 years ago. And did it up as a hobby for a while, and then found an opportunity to use an old building and to try seeing if we could grow mushrooms in it. And the building was really difficult to work in. It was derelict grain elevators, but we cleaned it up and we built a grow room and it worked. And then we really couldn't implement a farm there because of many other reasons. There was asbestos and other things that we ended up discovering that just made it an unsuitable building. So rather than go on a big scale, I said, well, why don't I go on a small scale? And I bought one shipping container, started a complete farm in one box. So I thought inside the box. Basically, we had a little prep area, a walk-in, an incubation area, and a grow room, all in a 48-foot container. And so once that was working, we kind of expanded into a warehouse. I took on a partner. Partner seems great as far as the scale and the reach and the resources, but partnerships are difficult. It has to be exactly the right chemistry, the right expectations. It has to be equitable and fair on both sides. And if one partner doesn't feel that way, then it can go sour. And so we have, the partnership ended and it was an amicable split. No hard feelings. We walked away. Said it's just not working out between the two of us. But the farm was doing well. It was big, or I would say large, right in maybe the mid-sized farm, not necessarily a small-scale farm anymore. And when you're doing several hundred pounds a week, you call yourself mid-scale. And then I said, you know what? If I'm going to do a new farm, I want to do it on my own property, and I want to own it. I want to own the land, and I can take my time setting it up so it gets exactly how I want it. Because when you're operating, you end up finding out that all these things you'd like to change, you just don't have time to change them. But if you take the time to do it right before you restart, you can get everything lined up exactly how you want it. And then you don't have to, get irritated every time you see something you don't like. So that's a little bit of how I got into mushrooms and where I'm at now.
So would you kind of go into detail? Like, did you have to take out a loan? Did you continue working at your job and do mushroom design and cultivation kind of part-time? Like, how did you fund your startup, and how have you continued to run your business to where you are today?
So I was fortunate enough to have a background in engineering and software development, and so I had a full-time job at the time doing software development, and really just did it in my spare time, and then that started to become pretty heavy. So I was going to the farm in the morning and at night every day, and the farm was 20 minutes away, so that was not ideal. Where now I live on my farm, so the equation has changed considerably, and I would advocate that for anybody considering this, because you need to be there a lot. So I didn't need to take out a loan. However, moving here, we sort of said, well, we'll provision enough money rolled into our mortgage to be able to purchase the extra things that we would need to reset up our farm here. And so the one thing I would caution a lot of growers that are looking to get started is it's going to cost you more money than you think. You're going to need help along the way because, when I just made so many mistakes when I first started out. I mean, blew tons of money on failed methods, on doing things that were just dogma at the time. And then later on realize you can cut a whole bunch of steps out that people say you have to do. And you only learn that by trying and failing and failing and failing and failing and then finally learning and being successful. So it's very difficult. So you have to provision enough money and funds and patience to last through the development cycles it takes for you to get it right. Or you have to tell yourself, I'm going to focus on the easier parts, this more straightforward, and not take on every variable at the same time. I mean, I went deep into things I wanted to learn about: the science, the cultivation, the petri dish, the lab work, the colonization, how to make my own spawn, and that's all something I would advocate you get to. But to start out, you might even be fine just buying blocks from a commercial provider where there's going to be guaranteed results until you get your grow room and your harvesting practices down. So yeah, I didn't take the path that I would recommend.
So yeah, and that's kind of why you're starting to offer ready-to-fruit kits in your area. You're in Meaford, Ontario. You're around Collingwood, Toronto area. So you can service, a pretty wide range around Meaford. And you also offer consulting because you've gone through everything and you know how much time it takes. And there's a lot of value in really meeting an expert. So maybe you can kind of get into what have you done so far with consultations that you can talk about? I know there's some stuff that you're not allowed to talk about.
That's right.
But I'd really like to kind of hear what have you done since you started opening up your services?
Sure. So probably 6 farms now that I've done some consultation work for, and some of them are ongoing relationships. Some of them were just to kind of get people off the starting blocks. In some cases, it was interesting. We charge a higher rate when we do consultation work, and it's something that some people have a hard time swallowing sometimes. But a great example why it works is one guy called me, and he was going to be doing a shipping container farm, and he said, I'm just getting the quotes now for the concrete pad that I'm going to pour to put my shipping containers on. I was like, why are you doing that? That's just a big waste of money. Shipping containers are supported from 4 corners. All you need to do is put it on the ground. I mean, you drive around in rural areas, you see them on lawns, on gravel, on everywhere. You don't need to pour a concrete pad. And he said, well, you just saved me $10,000. So, that's an example of where somebody who's already looked and developed something and been successful at it can give you advice and keep you from making a lot of mistakes and spending a lot of money needlessly.
Well, thank you so much, Brad, for taking the time. If you guys want to check Brad out, he's available for consultations. I'll leave an email in the show notes below. You're even talking about possibly getting into an education program or even woofers as this farm develops, because you've just moved here in Meaford.
Yep.
So if you guys are interested in connecting with Brad, there might be some opportunities as well. Send him an email and get in touch with Brad, because this guy is awesome. He's a really smart dude, and I love everything he does. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, man. Good to see you again.
All right. Ciao. All right, thank you. Probably give me some business.
Yeah.